Hello, it is me, Michelle. I wanted to share with you my skincare routine and how I change it up for some of this super cold, super dry weather. Today, where I live, it is currently 5 degrees with a wind chill of -1. I know a lot of you are experiencing this, and if you're anything like me, my skin tends to change a little bit when it gets this dry and this cold. We've got humidifiers going in every room practically right now, just trying to maintain the level of humidity that we have been used to, and I live in a fairly dry climate, so that is not much. But I'm going to share with you how I change up my routine for this kind of weather, because it does change my skin. So normally I am a combo oily. I've got that oily T-zone with the drier cheeks. What I'm going to do today, though, I'm just getting my face wet here. Okay? And then I'm going to go in with a really good, really moisturizing cleanser instead of my combo oily. I'm going to rub that in just like normal. Yes, I even do my eyelids. And I always make sure I get right along that jawline, because I do find when I'm sitting at the office, I tend to sit there like this. So I want to make sure that I get that jawline clean as well. That way I don't have little breakouts there. And you can see this cleanser is gentle. You watch me scrub my eyelids, but I've got my eyes open talking to you guys now. And I usually try and scrub it in for at least 30 seconds. Just keep rubbing. That way I can make sure that my pores are really good and clean. Okay, and then we'll rinse this off. I do one splash with my regular water, and then I use my cloth to make sure I've got the rest of it off. I don't want to continually splash really hot water on my face, because that can be even more dry. But I do want warm water. Then next, I'm going to take an exfoliating scrub, but I'm going to use one that's a little bit more gentle than the normal microdermabrasion that I would use. That is the aluminum oxide style crystal. And in the winter like this, my skin gets just a little bit more tender. So I want to switch to a slightly gentler scrub, and this one is great. It's actually designed for youth because they don't need as much scrubbing, but it is great for winter as well because I don't want to damage my skin, but I do want to make sure. I had to be out in this cold a little bit yesterday, so I want to make sure that any of the top skin layers that dried out from that are off, so that my moisturizer can get down to the layers it needs to be. Now you'll notice I did not put this on my eyes. You don't ever want to put your scrub on your eyes. Okay, now this one I do have to rinse off under the running water, so be back in a flash. Okay, it's rinsed off, and I'm going to pat my face dry. And I do mean pat, not rub. For the same reason that I switched to a gentler scrub instead of doing the full microderm, you do not want to rub your face with a towel. That can be too abrasive. It can leave your skin red and irritated and more sensitive to products that normally wouldn't bother you at all. Okay, I can take off my cute little wristbands now. I just hate it when the water runs up my arms and then I've got wet sleeves and it drives me crazy. Now I am going to add a couple of drops of our hydrating serum. This is an hyaluronic acid plus ceramide. Just put 2 drops in my palms, and I am just rubbing and patting that all around. You can put it on your fingertips, your palms, whichever one you prefer to do. And then I'm going to give that just a moment to fully set in so that it's fully dry. And then I am going to do a couple of our eye patches. Now these you put on and you let them sit for 10 to 15 minutes, really, however long is comfortable for you. Pointy side goes toward the inner. These are good for helping to reduce inflammation, dark circles, but they're also just really good for that extra moisturizing boost. And when it gets really dry like this, I find that my lower cheeks start drying out as well. So not just under my eyes, but around my cheeks too. Now the awesome thing about this, yeah, they're called eye patches, but they're not limited to just your eyes. So I'm gonna take a second pair and I'm gonna put it right here. I don't want to get them to the middle of my chin because I've got a tiny little oil patch right there in the middle of my chin that breaks out anytime I do the slightest thing it doesn't like. And pardon me, sometimes they like to stick together and I have to work them apart. There we go. And same thing on here, put that on this side. Okay. Now, I am, whoops, gonna scoot this over because it's in my mouth. I don't want it in my mouth. There, all right. Next to my mouth, but not in my mouth. And the excess that's on there, I'm just gonna rub this onto my forehead. Yes, my forehead is part of my oily T-zone, but this time of year, if you find that your face gets even more oily as it gets dried out, that's actually because your face is crying out for moisture. Even oily skin needs the right kind of moisture, and if you don't give it to it, it will actually ramp up the oil production. All right, we're gonna let this sit on here, so I will be back in about 10 minutes, and then we'll see how it looks. It's been somewhere close to about 15 minutes now. So I'm back. These feel dry. They feel like they're starting to come off by themselves, which is fine. So I'm just gonna take them off. They're gonna go in the trash. And then everything that's left underneath them, you don't wipe it off. I just pat it in. And you can see how those spots look like moist and dewy. Now that is what you want. When it's really dry, my next step is, I know I did the other scrub on my whole face, but I always toss in my lip scrub. Normally I do this once or twice a week, but when it gets really dry, I tend to do it every other day. And the lip scrub is a different kind of scrub than what goes on the rest of your face. This is a sugar scrub, so it dissolves and it just takes a tiny little bit here. This one smells like Fruit Loops, which maybe is just effective at being a sugar scrub, I don't know. And then just rinse that off. Pat my lips dry. Okay, and then we're gonna toss the lip balm on top, whoops. Okay, just a little bit of the lip balm goes a long way. I'm gonna do my eye cream. Sometimes I skip my eye cream when I'm in a hurry or the weather is amenable, but when it is cold, I do it every single day because my eyelids are another one of my really dry spots. I don't like putting the regular moisturizer on my eyelids because sometimes it will sink down into your eyes and then it irritates it, but the eye cream is specifically designed for that delicate skin. Next thing I'm going to add in is a barrier restoring cream, because in the winter especially, that skin barrier, that natural barrier that your skin is supposed to have that protects it from all of the bad things in the air and your environment starts to break down. I will notice that my skin gets a little more sensitive to things, and that is because that skin barrier is having troubles and it needs a little bit of help. This one is designed to mimic the natural ratio of lipids and collagen and things like that are in your skin to begin with. This just helps repair those and give them a boost so that they can better continue to protect your skin. Okay, now I'm going to give that a minute or two to soak in before I put anything else on top of that. So I'll be back in just a moment. Okay, we're back. That has set in. Now, how do I know if it's been long enough? I don't actually set a timer or anything. That is when I brush my teeth. And as soon as I'm done brushing my teeth, I know I'm pretty good to move on to the next step. I don't feel like my skin is sticky or wet. It's looking nice and glowy, but it feels dry. It feels soft, but dry. So I know I'm ready to move on to the next step. The next thing I'm going to add in is a replenishing vitamin C and vitamin E serum. And I'm just going to dab this around, same thing on top. Okay, again, I'm not putting it in my eyes, although sometimes I do put it right on my brow ridge, just when that part starts to dry out, when it is really dry like we have right now. But I'm going to let that set in again for just a couple of seconds until it feels like it is not as moist and not as wet as it was when I first put it on. And then my final steps is a good moisturizer. Now, because I do have the combo oily skin, I am going to my usual combo oily moisturizer, and then I add in a pump of my sunscreen, because even when it's cold and we didn't get a lot of snow, but we got some, and I plan on being indoors, but we still have windows. And especially in my house, my windows are really old, so I know they're not doing a darn thing at all to filter out the UV rays. So I make sure, even when I'm going to be inside all day, that I have applied a sunscreen. And again, put it right on that brow ridge, but I do not go down onto the eyelid. So if you feel eyeball when your eyes are closed, that's too far. You don't want to go down that far. You run the risk of it dripping into your eye if you get that close. And I don't want to do that because sunscreen in your eye hurts. All right, so there we go. There you have it. This is my extended winter edition on how to keep my skin moist and happy. And I would only do this full extended version once a day. I would pick, do I have more time in the morning or do I have more time in the evening? Okay, I hope that gives you some ideas on how to keep your skin nice and soft and supple and well moisturized in this dry, cold winter weather. I want y'all to stay safe and stay beautiful. Love you. Bye.